Hey, welcome to the Sharpe Way show. Yes, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. It's a holiday, and I am still here, even on the holiday, MLK Day. Yes, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. Larry Sharpe here. You know what I'm going to ask you, so please just go ahead and do it. Make me happy. Like, comment, share. Please like, comment, and share. Let people know that I'm out here, that I'm talking about this, and that others will know so they can watch it and so that they can share too. That would be amazing. If you want to help out the show itself, great. Head on over to patreon.com/sharpeway. $10, $25, $100, whatever money you got coming that you think you can throw my way, please throw my way. Gets me to keep doing these things and keep all the shows going every single day, Monday through Friday. Yes, I am insane. There is something specific I wanted to talk about. I want to, if I can, to get you to think about a story, if I can. Get you to think about a story. This is you. In this fictitious case I'm going to make up right now, if you can imagine yourself, you are now in a romantic relationship with someone. You're in that relationship with someone, and that person you really like, you care about. You've been working together maybe on a job for a while. You get to know them pretty well, and you got married even. Now you're legally bound to that person. It was pretty quick. You guys got together, but now maybe it's been a year and you're now married. Okay, got it. That person has some issues. Some issues. The issues aren't because of you. The issues are because of a previous relationship. In this case, this person, he had a girlfriend before you who treated him very poorly, who cheated on him, who treated him poorly, took advantage of him, treated him very badly. So now when you do certain things that remind him of that person, he gets really upset. He gets upset, he gets mad, he does all types of things you don't like. And you say to yourself, wow, this is a problem. This is a problem. You have a relationship now. So if this is the case, you have someone who's got a bunch of problems from a previous relationship. You already got married. So somehow either it was hidden or you didn't want to see it or whatever, but now here's where you are. You kind of got three choices. Three choices. Choice number one, look, I'm not her. I didn't do that stuff to you. It's not my issue. It's not my issue. What do you want me to do? I can't deal with this. Not my fault. Not my fault. I didn't do it. I wasn't there then. It wasn't me. Leave me alone. What are you going to do? That's option one. How well is that marriage going to work if you pick option one? People do it all the time. All the time people do it. That doesn't go well. Option two. Forget it. Get divorced. You know what? This isn't going to work. I'm going to get divorced. I can't handle your baggage. Not my problem. I'm out of here. Well, there's a lot of legal ramifications for that. You know, you're pregnant, you got kids. Now what? Right? Change their. Wow, that's a problem, but can be done. It's a third option. And the third option is to say, you know what? I care about this relationship. I care about this marriage. And even though you got some baggage from stuff I had nothing to do with, I care about you. And even though I'm not to blame for the responsibility, I'm not to blame for the stuff that happened to you, because I care about this relationship, I'm going to take responsibility for helping you to make things better. That's what I'm going to do, because I care about the relationship. I'm going to not worry about blame, but I'm going to take responsibility. They might say, wow, Larry, that sounds good. Yeah, that's kind of the only option you have if you want to have that solid marriage. Now, the sad part about this scenario is it's rare. Most people pick option one or option two. But if you pick option three, there's another part. The person who now has the baggage, they have to take responsibility too. And if any of you, I'm sure some of you watching, have been through tough times in your marriage or relationships, whether you're married or not, if only one person wants it, it doesn't work. Both have to say, yeah, we're going to fix this, or it Doesn't work. For those of you who know me, I've been married about 20 years with my wife, and we've almost been divorced 3 times. And I can say the reason why we're not divorced now is not because she's so smart or I'm so smart or whatever. I'm so cool, she's so cool. Nope, those aren't the reasons. The reasons are because both of us wanted to make it work. And if we didn't, we wouldn't be married now. Why do I bring this up? Why would I bring up this kind of story on MLK Day? Because that's very similar to race relations. It's very similar. It's a similar issue. Do you want to fix race relations in America? Do you want to? If you don't have to. You can try to get divorced. Boy, is that messy. That doesn't work out well at all. You can go, not my problem. I wasn't there. Who cares? You can do that too. Boy, that doesn't go well either. Or you can say, you know what? Let's all take responsibility, not blame. There is a big difference. Let's take responsibility. Try to fix this stuff. We can. It's possible. But again, I'll go back to the marriage relationships. If you're having trouble in your relationship, it's not a 5-minute fix. It's an ongoing fix. It's a long-term conversation, back and forth conversations. And so it's not just about, okay, you do this, I'll do that, fixed. That's how it works. I'll go one step further. Your, in this case, husband, in this scenario making up, in this case, your husband, the person that your husband was with in the past where he has those issues with is your cousin. Now you're related. So it isn't you, but it's your family. It's your family. So think about that. The person who your, in this case, husband, had the issues with was your cousin. And your cousin wasn't very good. In this case, your cousin, she was really bad to him. She cheated on him. She lied to him. She took his money. She took advantage of him. She was terrible to him. And he finally got away. He was in an abusive relationship and he left. But that's your cousin. You actually like her. She's nothing bad to you. You think she's great. In fact, you've had, Christmas with her and holidays with her and all this stuff. She's your family member. You actually like her. Wow, is that awkward? So what happens when your husband says, that so-and-so woman, she's a insert bad name here, loose woman, insert horrible name here. How do you feel? You're torn, aren't you? It's your spouse. That's your cousin. They hate each other. Tough there too. This is our world. This is our world. This is what we're living in now. A tough spot that can't just go, you're bad. Could you imagine the husband just says to the wife, you can never see your cousin again. Your cousin's evil and nasty and horrible. You may never see her ever again. In fact, don't even talk about her. In fact, let's erase everything from her. Get rid of everything she says. She's terrible. She's bad. How would you feel? You were raised with her. Now, is this an exact analogy? Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. But I brought together this analogy just to get people to think this is not an easy fix. You can't just simply assign blame or get rid of it. You can't just do oh, you like your cousin? Then you're against me. Or you don't, oh, you hate your cousin? And your cousin goes, what? You're a traitor. It doesn't work that way. This is a heavily nuanced piece that will take us a long time to repair. But the number one thing is we have to start thinking about, will we take responsibility to actually make it work? And we walk down that road. And here's the hardest part. What if now you're the wife in this case, you go to your husband and go, look, I get it. It was bad then with my cousin, and my cousin was bad. My cousin was bad to you, right? It was a bad relationship. She was lying to you. She was doing terrible stuff to you. You're right. And I get why you're worried and scared, and you and I haven't. I get it. But look, when are you going to get over it, man? When are you going to get over it? How does he feel when you say that? And they go, but Larry, he's got to get over it. You're right. He's got to. Larry, he should get over it. You're right. He should. That's correct. He should get over it. and he's got to get over it if he's going to survive and do well in his life. Yeah, you can't sit behind a relationship forever that hurt you and was terrible. Of course, if you've been through one, you got to move on eventually, or it's going to eat you forever. I get it. I do. But when you act that way towards him, how does he feel? And that's my point. Almost all of this isn't logical. It's emotional. And you hear me say this on this show, I don't know how many thousands of times. Humans are not only logical, they're also emotional. Both. Politics, heavily emotional. And all we do is throw facts at each other. You can't beat an emotional argument with logic. Doesn't work. Just doesn't work. You might think, I owned him or I owned her because I threw the logical argument at them. Yeah, but they still hate you. If we're going to move forward, we have to think to ourselves, is our communication, are our actions, are we judging them just by their accuracy, or are we judging them by their results? Are we getting better? And I know some of you Ben Shapiro fans will say things like, well, facts don't care about your feelings. I know that, and that's insanely ignorant. I know that sounded bad when I said it, but you see how that just felt? That's a fact, by the way. It doesn't care about your feelings, right? It does, because your feelings decided how you heard that. And that's my entire point. Feelings are way more important than facts. Not even close. Way more. Feelings change facts. Feelings ignore facts. Feelings make up facts randomly. Feelings are far superior than facts. It's not even close. Facts got nothing on feelings. Facts are a joke compared to feelings. Feelings are everything. So, of course, in an issue like racism, we're talking about this now in MLK Day, right? These issues, relationships between the people in America, not just racism, obviously, but I'm bringing this up as an example, but sexism, bigotry, prejudice of any type, all of that is emotional. It is logical too, but heavily emotional. And we've got to start thinking of it that way. That's an important piece. Let me grab a couple comments. Then I have several things I want to move to if I can, but a couple quick comments if I can. So, all right. Hey guys, how are you? Larry, you coming to Florida? I will see if I can. Absolutely, yes. Silly Larry, riots are wrong only if they're for the wrong cause. Let me touch that right now. I talked about this being emotional, and one of MLK's famous sayings were, "Riots is the voice of the unheard." Daniel, that's true. And let me move to my relationship model I just made up. You go out with your girlfriends, in this case, we've become female. Daniel, sorry, in this case we are. So you go out with your girlfriends, you hang out. Remember, in the past, he's been telling you, your husband telling you how bad he feels when you do that. And you go out, look, I'm having a good time with my girlfriends. We're going to have a good time. And you come back, and he's broken things. He's physically broken things. He punched a hole in the wall, or he, broke the TV, or smashed the PS4, or whatever it is. That's a riot. That's him not being heard. Is it right? Of course not. It's not right. He shouldn't be breaking property. That's not right. And it is human. So you can yell at him and be righteous. You shouldn't break that. That cost us money. You could do that. Would it stop him from breaking it next time? It wouldn't. It wouldn't. Larry, you're excusing this. I'm not. I'm explaining it. Because if you explain it, then you can predict it, then you can prevent it. I don't want riots. I want to predict them, which I did, and then prevent them, which we didn't. I predicted all these riots. Remember a year ago? Predicted all these riots. Now it's happening. It was predictable, but we didn't prevent it. So while I don't think it's right for him to break the PS4 or smash the coffee table, it was predictable and preventable. Same thing here. It doesn't matter. If you're unheard, you turn to violence. When people feel helpless, they become self-destructive. That's simply what humans do. It is predictable and preventable. Absolutely. We could do both. And a lot of it's about being heard. So, yeah, Dan, you're right. If he breaks the coffee table, she says, that's terrible. But then what about when he to get his revenge, hangs out with his friends all night, right? I'm going to show you, I'm going to go get drunk with all my buddies all night. And then she gets mad and she takes his phone and smashes it when he gets home. Oh, but she was okay because it was her cause. He was okay because it was his cause. No, both were unheard and both were wrong. But let me now go to the next level, Daniel, which I think is where you're probably going with this. What happens if he hits her? What happens if she hits him? Now you've gone too far. You've just gone too far. That's when you've gone too far. Period. You've gone too far. I can understand. I can. Right? If someone says, why'd you kill that guy? Oh, because he cut me off. Okay, I understand why you killed him. He cut you off, you felt disrespected, and you killed him. I understand. I'm not validating it. You still should go to jail, right? But I can explain it, but it's still wrong. Same thing here. Now you've gone too far, right? Once people start being hurt, you've gone too far. Don't get me wrong, all the writing is bad, but it's predictable. And that's my point. So thank you for that, Daniel. I appreciate that. Yes. I'm looking forward to this episode all day long. Thank you. I will go into some other things. Absolutely, I will. But I hope you guys understand we are in a relationship with all the people in America. And that was the whole point. We're in a relationship with all the people in America. And I keep hearing people say things like, well, they got to go, or they're bad people, or to hell with them, or insert thing here. Where are they going to go? We're all in the same marriage. Do you know how expensive divorce is? Do you know how horrible divorce is? Some of you been through it. You know what I'm talking about. Imagine a country divorce. Is it even possible? With all our mixed assets? Bad idea. Bad idea. Absolutely. Bad idea. So, do you think MLK would approve of Trump or Biden being president? Wow, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. Particularly at the end of MLK's life, he was much more a Democrat than he was a Republican. So I think he would have leaned further left. And people get upset about that often. They go, well, he was much more of a socialist. And let me cover this if I can. Why are minorities very often socialists or communists? It's a common thing. Right? The people who are oppressed are very often socialists or communists. So one of the things that socialists will often say, socialism is the voice of the oppressed, and they're often right. That's often true. So I'll go back to why. Because whatever is the status quo is usually keeping people down. So when they try to move up from status quo, they get hurt. Now, let me move into America now. In America, you find that's almost always one exception whenever we talk about people of color or people doing poorly in America. And the exceptions almost always Asians. Not 100% rule, but about an 80% rule. That's an exception to the rule, right? Oh, okay, they're Asian, so particularly East Asian, but Asian in general, right? Okay, they're the ones who are exceptions. You find that here in New York City, where some of the Asian students supposedly aren't going to be able to get into certain schools because they test so well, that type of thing, right? It happens often. You might say, well, why is that the case? There are many reasons why, but there are some specific reasons why when it comes to Native Americans, African Americans in America. What didn't happen to Asians, what didn't happen to Irish, what didn't happen to Italians when they came to America, didn't happen to Jews when they came to America. All of those groups of people had horrible things they had to get over. Tons of biases and prejudices, and in certain cases not knowing the language, not understanding the culture, having to find education. They had tons of things they had to get over. But here are two things they didn't have to worry about. Number one, 150 years of state-sponsored violence. That they didn't have to worry about. They had violence. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to take away what these immigrant groups have achieved. I mean, think about it. The Supreme Court is full of people who are, Italians, Hispanics, Jews. I mean, it's amazing what those immigrants groups, when it came to America, what they have achieved, right? So I don't take anything away from them. What I want to say is, if you are Native American, if you are African American, you had hundreds of years of state-sponsored violence against you. Guaranteed. Literally state-sponsored violence crushing and physically burning and destroying and killing you and destroying your property. Those others didn't have that. That was the one they didn't have to get over. Not just that. Some Native Americans were still able to fall back to their culture, even though they might have been displaced or moved or many of their people killed. Their culture still existed in some way, shape, or form. Not all Native Americans, but many of them were able to. No African Americans were able to fall back to their culture. Their culture was removed from them completely. Don't know where it comes from. Don't know what tribe they're from. Don't know, it's African American. It's not Nigerian American. I mean, if you're an immigrant from Nigeria today, I'm talking about African Americans who are descendants of slaves. Doesn't exist. My last name is Sharpe. That's because the people who owned my family were named Sharpe. Doesn't mean I come from a certain area or I know that. It's a whole different way of looking at things. So when you feel oppressed, you want to do whatever is anti-establishment. And generally speaking, socialism and communism become anti-establishment. Right? Look at the Russians in 1917. I bring this example up all the time. They were oppressed by the Tsar for 300 years. Oppressed for 300 years as almost slaves, serfs in Russia. And they were like, well, there's this hope. What's this hope? It's called communism. Oh, communism. Is it the Tsar? It's not. Okay, let's try it. It was hope. Then they realized later it was just as bad. But they didn't know any better. And I think the same thing happens in most places. If you look at the history, and I'll bring this up briefly, those of you who want to see this specifically, you can go to my Juneteenth special from last year, June 19th, 2020. It's here on any of the YouTube pages. Check it out. I do a detail of how things move forward. But the general basis is as the Black community began to build itself up after each war that Black soldiers fought in, they were physically attacked by state-sponsored, government-sponsored soldiers, government-sponsored sheriffs, the law. They were physically attacked, hammered, killed, their places burned to the ground, right? Black Wall Street's probably the most popular one right after World War I. That happened constantly. The federal government made guidelines for housing and there's little documents on this. I showed it in that special where the federal government said, if you are making a new community after World War II to build these new communities out, you can have a certain percentage of Irish, Jews, and Italians. If I remember right, it was 30%. You know how many Blacks you could have? How many Black families? 0. None. 0. The federal government ensured segregation after World War II. At what point do Blacks say, I surrender. I can't do this. In the 60s, in the Black Panthers of the 60s, were trying to create localized, Black-owned, Black-controlled neighborhoods where they could grow on their own without government help. And again, if you think I'm making this up, please do your homework on this. They were literally murdered by the government. Literally, in their house with guns, shot them to death in their beds. Again, if you're making it up, do your own homework. It's absolutely a fact. That's what happened. The origins of gun control. Keeping guns out of the hands of Black people. They weren't going, let's get the guns out of the hands of Irish. They weren't saying that. Out of the hands of Jews. They weren't saying that. But they were saying it, Blacks. So these are literally laws that were hurting us. And at one point, the biggest movement was MLK saying, fine, I'll use the government to help us. And that got us civil rights, which then got us the war on poverty, which hurt the Black family. And then response to that was the war on drugs, which crushed the Black family. So it didn't work. Didn't work. Anyway, I hope I went down that road to explain how that works. Yes. Freedom comes with personal responsibility. Yes, but it's going to be both sides, Jimmy. Both sides, right? Both have to agree, right? If you have personal responsibility, but I'm blaming you, or you have personal responsibility, or I'm oppressing you, or if you have personal responsibility, or I'm physically stopping you from doing things, we have to both agree. Yes, I have my own personal responsibility, and so do you. But there's something else. You shouldn't agree to try to fix the relationship if you actually don't care. And not everyone cares. And I can't force you to care. I shouldn't force you to care. But if you don't, we're going to have a bad relationship. I hope you want to try to fix it. And you can take responsibility for trying to fix it without necessarily taking blame. And with that in mind, let me move a little bit further if I can and talk about that concept. Since it's emotional, there are two different parts of any word or phrase: the connotation and denotation. The denotation is what the word means, and a connotation is how it feels. Boy, is that so important. I would say connotation is far more important than denotation. And most people don't get that. They think, well, the word means this, right? And in the libertarian world, that word is often anarchy, right? Well, anarchy, right? Well, yeah, the denotation is fine for libertarian. But what's the connotation? What's the feeling of the word? When you say the word anarchy, the average American thinks, oh my God, it's violent chaos. That's what they think. Now, clearly, that's not the meaning of the word, but that's the feeling of it, and it matters. And the phrase I want to bring up now is racism. Racism, when you bring up the word, that's racist, you're racist, whenever that comes up, the image is someone who is chasing black people down the street trying to lynch them. That's the image. That's the feeling of the word. So now when you bring up that word and that racist, he's racist, she's racist, the image is that. If the image is racist, if the image of a racist is this horrible person, when you call someone that, it's not a descriptor. It's not. And sometimes people using it are trying to use it as a descriptor. I'm describing something. It's not. It's a pejorative term. It's an insult. How is the person going to react? Is the person going to hear you? And I know what the argument is. The argument is, well, Larry, that thing is based upon race. Therefore, that person said it or did it. Therefore, that person's racist. There may be an argument to that in a denotative way. You could go down that road and go, see, Larry, I'm right. Maybe. I mean, depends on the situation, perhaps. But I go back to my earlier point. Is the goal of the conversation to be right? To worry about your accuracy of your communication? Or is the goal to make things better? Am I trying to look at the results of my communication? Am I trying to make things better? Well, if I call some guy racist, I could be right and righteous and shake my fist. See, I'm great. I called a guy racist. Did I get him to be any better? Did anything get better? No. In fact, people like him. It's even worse. I'll go back to my marriage example. In this case, and I'm going to make this up for this case, the woman is white and the husband is black in this case. So the woman says to the cousin, the black husband says to the wife, your cousin who I was with before, she's a racist. How does she feel? You've just called her cousin racist. How does she feel about that? She links to herself. Of course, you're the same family. She's like, that's not true. That's not. And now she gets mad. Now she's fighting. And she's going to say something. Well, I did this too. Am I racist now? What's he going to say? No. Well, then he's wrong. Yes? You're going to call your spouse a racist? That's what you're going to do. How's that going to work? How's that going to work? In this case, both sides, and to your point that you mentioned, Jimmy, both sides have to take responsibility for this. The left, as a general rule, is the left, spends more of its time calling people racist, right, than the right does. The right does too, but the left more. Think about what you're actually calling someone. And is it going to work? And does it really make sense? What's the outcome? Or to be better, to put a nuance. And what I mean by that, Larry, you've got to call these people out. No, you don't. You don't have to call people out. You do so if you want to feel righteous, then you have to if you want to feel righteous, but not required. You can still call the action out or even have a conversation over it. If someone says something that you think is racist or something, you can say, hey, Jimmy, I want to bring this thing up. You said X, Y, and Z last week. That felt a little bit racist to me. That say what you said, not you. The thing that you said felt that way to me. Now, if Jimmy and I have a bad relationship, he's mad at me. Guaranteed he's mad at me. He's like, wow, now you're calling me a racist. But if we have a good relationship, he goes, oh, why did it feel that way? Oh, let's talk this thing out. Why did it come across that way? I'm not saying he's racist. I'm saying something happened, felt that way to me. What is that most important thing I'm doing? I am separating intent from impact. And I cannot stress how important that is. And in today, modern day, a lot of people are throwing that in the garbage. And man, they are wrong. And it is going to hurt us. If the impact is bad, the intent may not be. The assumption is the person will lie and get away with bad intent. It's not true. If Jimmy's a bad guy and a racist, he goes, what do you mean you and your people always think that? He will come out and show who he is right away. But if he's not, and he just said something he didn't know or didn't realize, or maybe he just has bad habits that need to be broken. Any of those things could be true. I don't know. But I give him the benefit of the doubt. I take responsibility for my feelings, but I don't assume his intent. I ask. And then he then doesn't assume that I'm insulting him. He assumes, oh, wait a minute, something I said had an impact on Larry. Doesn't mean I meant it, but you know what? Because I care about Larry, the responsibility for the relationship with him. Let me ask, why do you feel that way? And now it's conversation. Larry, do I have to have conversations all the time? Yes. 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 That's the way we fix this. Yes. Lots of conversations. Again and again and again. People want me to talk about race every day. I don't. But I talk about it often because people want to talk about it. So I talk about it. And I try to create, oh, please don't get mad at me, a safe space. I know it sounds terrible. It's connotation, right? I'm breaking my own rule. But I'm also doing it because I want you to realize how fun that is, right? So there's a reason why I said that. But I want to create that. I want you to be able to have a conversation about it and talk about it and realize that it's okay to have that conversation. So I hope that was clear. Let me keep going. So listening to his speeches is accurate. Thank you. I appreciate that. Good. All right. And you don't fix the problem by denying there's an issue. This is, and I want to bring that up to, thank you, Brennan. This is a huge point. Thank you. Right. When same example. The husband has trouble with the cousin. She was bad to him. She cheated on him, lied to him, fooled him into all kind of stuff that he fell for. And he feels terrible about it. And then when he tells his wife, God, I feel bad. I fell for this woman. I believed all her garbage, and she lied to me. She cheated. She took my money. She was terrible. Your cousin was terrible. What happens when the wife goes, well, it's over now. Oh, well, you should have known better. What happens when he says to her, man, that hurt me so much. I lost money. I lost time. I'm so hurt by that. And she says, lots of people are hurt. How's that feel? How's that feel? That's the equivalent of Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. It's the same. Is it incorrect that lots of people feel pain? It's not. It's accurate. That is accurate information. 100%. It's an accurate statement. All lives matter. Accurate statement. 100%. I'm not fighting the accuracy of the statement. I'm saying it feels bad. That's what I'm saying. And for her, again, if you don't care about the relationship, say what you want to say. Doesn't matter. Feel the pain. Keep moving. But if she at that point says, well, lots of people, have problems, man. Lots of people have bad relationships, man. A lot of people get their money stolen from friends and family, man. What's your issue? Come on. That's what you should not say if you care about the relationship. If you care about the relationship, you shouldn't say that. Now, I'll go back to my nuance piece. Is there racism? Of course there is. Brendan, you're right. Of course it exists. Absolutely. Of course it exists. But it doesn't mean I want to call everybody racist. There are nuances to everything. I don't want to deny it, and I never do. You've never heard me go, there's no such thing as racism. I've never said that. But I want to be clear. I'll go back to my racist piece. When you say racist, the person assumes this is the person who's running around trying to, grab the first black person and hang him from a tree. Now, are there people like that in America? Of course there are. But those people, so few people in America, it is minuscule, the number of Americans who want to go around grabbing black people and hanging from a tree. They exist. I don't want to say they don't. They do. Super small minority of Americans who actually think that way. So every time I say the word racist, and I'll call someone racist, I'm bringing up that image. And now what I'm actually doing is making the actual guy like that, who really is that way. I've just made him not so bad because I've linked him to the guy who says bad things. An example I'll give is this, and it's it with the Me Too movement. There is a difference between a woman who is sexually harassed versus a woman who is sexually assaulted versus a woman who is raped. All are bad and should not happen. All are bad and should not happen. And all should have different ways of dealing with and working with, right? If someone's harassed, there's a chance you can have a conversation that might be repairable. Someone's raped? No. if some guy, in this case guy, harasses some woman, there's a chance you could work on that with communication. That could happen. You should give that person benefit of the doubt. Have it, talk, see if we can, maybe it's repairable. It's possible. Who knows? Who knows? But possible. Rape? How do you fix that one? Right? If I've got some guy or some gal who wants to run around and hang people from trees, I probably can't fix that one. But some guy who says some things that make people feel bad, we can probably fix that with conversation. So 2 points, Brennan. I don't want to deny the problem at all. I also don't want to blow out of proportion. And I don't want to act like people who have problem A have problem C. They're different issues. So nuance does matter. And I want to give the benefit of the doubt every single time. So MLK will probably have some issue with Biden regarding the crime bill. I think that's correct. Yes, I think you're right. I would hope that MLK would look at the Libertarian Party. That'd be my hope, but I'm unsure. Yes. All right. Hey, Larry, gotten to see the MLK FBI documentary? I haven't yet. I need to now, Rick. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Absolutely. Rick, at the end of his life, MLK had really gotten into the idea that we needed a revolution that revolves around the poor. He didn't think capitalism, a word he particularly quoted, would empower the poor. That's why I think he preferred Bernie. You're probably right, Brent. That's probably true. At the end, I think he was that way. Yes, I think he was that way. Absolutely. So, end the war on drugs, please. Thank you, Bob. Let me walk down that road because you've taken something out of the words out of my mouth, you've taken some of my thunder, my lightning, whatever it is. You were thinking where I was going. How about that? If we just worry about being righteous, we never get to actual policies that make things better. Ending the war on drugs is the number one thing we can do to begin to make race relationships better. And even if we did tomorrow, it still wouldn't be great. We have problems. It will take time to repair them. It will take time to fix them. But this is the kind of thing I want to deal with. Here's at what point is anyone actually talking about the war, ending the war on drugs? Where's that one? We're talking about spending more money on more stuff to give people more stuff. Here's what people don't realize. Partially, and it's a big part, sadly, the war on drugs is also a war on poor people's entrepreneurship. Both. Think about that. Yes. How do I know that? No. There have been nonprofits, charities, run by those evil capitalists, run by some private equity people, MBAs, who would actually take people out of prison once they got out, who were nonviolent, who had run drug rings or run drug smuggling, and they taught them how to run a business. And then they back them up and say, you've run a business before, but you've run it with violence. Run a business again, just not with violence. You know how to move people around, get stuff done. You know how to get around systems. You've done it before. That's how you were successful in being a drug dealer. So let's now get you into the actual world. So yeah, imagine if all the work and energy and time that's been put into dealing drugs illegally, imagine if all that work and time we put into the regular market, just creating products and services in communities. Imagine if that was happening instead of them trying to figure out how to get drugs past the drug dogs or whatever the case may be. I don't know how to do drugs. Sorry, not my skill set, but still a valuable skill set. Yes, we have to work on that more than anything. We have to get policies that will end. By calling somebody racist doesn't work. It doesn't help. I'll go one step further. The idea of white supremacy. I understand the logic of it. I totally do. And I'm not even mad at people who want to talk about it academically. Totally fine. Makes sense. Have a conversation about it. Sure. No worries. But when every single time there's a problem, the first step goes to, well, that's because of white supremacy. Again, that you could have an argument to say that's true, right? You could, I'm sure, if you walk down the road, you could find an argument that's true. I go back to the same thing. What's the connotation on that? Most people, when they think of white supremacy, they either think of neo-Nazis or the KKK. That's what most people feel and think of when you say those phrases, that phrase, white supremacy. So if every time someone says this thing that I happen to like, whatever that thing might be, well, that's because of white supremacy. Now I feel like, my God, now I like Nazis? Now I like the KKK? Is that what you just said? what kind of change are you going to get? What kind of impact are you going to get? You're not. You're not. Now, if you could say the origins of that might be, this is how it came to be, and have a conversation, yeah, could be. This is the problem I have with calling people out. Not that I'm against calling people out in every case, but most of the time I am. Most of the time I'd rather you call the action out. I want you to separate the action from the person, because here's the problem. What if you find 1,000 people who've done bad things, and we call them all racist and say it's because they believe in white supremacy? Where are they supposed to go? How do we fix that? How do we fix that? We don't. They become blacklisted in some way, shape, or form. Pun intended. They become blacklisted in some way, shape, or form. They fall back into their own echo chambers in some way. They learn nothing. They don't change at all. You've reinforced what you didn't like. It's now reinforced, and everything becomes worse. They're not going to pack up and leave and, what Bill Maher mentioned, they're not going to self-deport. That's not going to happen. This is their country as much as it is ours. Of course it is. Of course it is. I've said many times I'm greedy, and I want 7 billion libertarians. That's what I said. First, can we have 330 million American libertarians? Let's do that first. I'm okay with that. I'll take them over the world. Let's start here. I want people to want to be Americans first. I really do. That's what I'm, not America first. That's what I'm saying. But I want them to care about that more than their race. That's what I would like them to do. So let me keep moving if I can. Humans are actually very illogical. We have the potential to use logic, but we often don't. That's why Econ 101 is wrong. It assumes we will act rationally. Time and time again, and we've proven that's a bad assumption. It's a valid point, Brennan, which is why I say most economists are wrong, because they don't take into account that issue. But they are predictable, and that's my point. There was literally a book on this. If you want to check it out, it's a book by a guy named Dan Ariely. I think I've said his name right. And the book is called Predictably Irrational. Or is it Irrationally Predictable? I forgot, one or the other, but you'll figure it out. It's an orange and blue book. As orange and blue cover. I think it's called Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely. He discovers that, and well, his thesis, his whole book is about how we are, while illogical, we are predictable, and being irrational is predictable. Things I've said are predictable. And Econ 101 does not cover that at all. You're correct. It doesn't. It doesn't cover that piece. But we can, if we just think. And people who are our leaders, who claim to rule us, who claim to be great, then yeah, they should know that. They should know that. Absolutely. So how do we get Trump supporters to realize he didn't end the endless wars, pay off the debt, get Mexico to pay for a border wall, or lock Korea up using emotion? Because they don't understand the facts. This is a great question. It is thank you, Joe. Great question. The first thing is, why do you want them to recognize that? It's a serious question. Why do you want Trump supporters to recognize that? Is it because, and I'm not being a jerk here. Well, maybe I am, but I'm not trying to be a jerk here. I'm asking a serious question. Why do we want to make them believe that? I'm not sure we do. Maybe, but I'd simply rather them say there's a better way, right? If I can get them to believe there's a better way. The problem is most people, and this goes back to what Brennan was just talking about, we're emotional and we want to be part of a tribe, part of a group. Humans, and I bring this up constantly, humans aren't naturally racist. It's not who we are. Humans are not, I know people get mad when I say it, but humans are not naturally racist. We are naturally tribal. Governments and societies and systems put on the racial cap so that our tribes will sometimes become based upon race. But we aren't naturally racist. We are naturally tribal. We create tribes and social groups, what we do. If government decides or system decide that, oh, that must be based upon race, as in a prison system, it's based upon race, laws of segregation based upon race, then we become tribal like that. But we switch and mix and match. If you ever find someone who tends to not like a certain group of people, they don't like Hispanics, they don't like black people, they don't like white people, whatever it is, put them in a separate type of tribe, like they all like poker, or they all like a movie, they like Star Wars, or something like that. They'll take that one guy of the group they don't like, whatever that group is, and put him in their tribe and go, well, he's one of the good ones. They'll say that. Why? They brought him to the tribe. So we are not racist naturally. We are naturally tribal. Why do I bring this up? Because even Trump supporters are tribal. That's who they are. Like everyone else, they're tribal. If you just say your tribe sucks, your tribe sucks, your tribe sucks, what do? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. In fact, it's the best ever. They double down. What did you do? Give them another tribe to go to. This tribe right here. Come to this tribe. This is a great tribe. This is a great tribe. This one's good. But what about all this stuff? Don't want them. Tribe's right here. This right here. It's a great tribe. My view is, and I think you've seen me my entire time doing this show, has never been to attack anybody's tribe. It's always been to come to my tribe. It's a cooler, open tribe. It's a better tribe. Come to my tribe. That's always what I've been saying. And that's why I'm saying, Joe, I'm not trying to get Trump supposed to believe anything is bad. I want them to think that my tribe's better. Come to my tribe. That's what matters. In fact, if I want them to come to my tribe, I either don't bring this up, or as you've heard me say many times, I give people credit where credit is due. It's true, Trump did not end the endless wars. That's true. So what will I say? Well, I'll give him credit. He didn't start a new one. I'll say that. And people get mad. But all these other things, who am I talking to? Am I talking to a Trump supporter? I'll say he didn't. You're right. He didn't start new ones. Oh, now they'll hear me. I'm worried about the results of my communication, not the righteousness of it. And call out Trump for his bad stuff. Why? So he can double down on it. I know people don't like it. Most people who get upset with me, it's not because of what I say, it's because of what I don't say. People want me to get mad. They want me to be angry at a lot of people. Only person I'm ever angry at is Cuomo. That's it. My Lord and Master, the governor of my state, His Majesty King Andrew Cuomo II. Him I get mad at personally because I ran against him and he was horrible, and so was his system. So that's a personal thing for me. But besides that, you don't see me get mad at anybody. I want to bring them to my tribe. So I hope that made sense. So, all right. Let's see if I can do this. If I keep going here, you guys give me a lot of stuff. I do want to go through some of these, and I have a bit more I want to talk about also if I can, but let me keep going down here if I can. I love all these questions. So thank you for this. All right. Let's see here. You made it, Meg. Thank you. Late, but you made it. I appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. All right. I used to live next to an Asian family when I was a kid. One of their kids was coming home almost crying because he got a B on her report card and was saying her parents are going to be very upset. Yes, that's the whole idea, right? Yes. Didn't happen to the Irish. Yes, the 150 years of state-sponsored violence in America didn't happen to the Irish. It did happen in Europe. That's true. The English did treat the Irish very poorly in many ways, often violently. But I'm talking about America in this case, Hannah. I'm not talking about in Europe. In America, no. In Europe, in America, the Irish did not get 150 years of state-sponsored violence. In America, the Irish got tons of prejudice and bias. 100% true. Absolutely tons of it. Right? And so did the Italians. Italians too. Tons of bias, tons of Jews, tons of bias, tons of prejudice. That's true. But it wasn't state-sponsored violence. In fact, if you look at it today, look at how many Irish are still part of law enforcement. Right? In many cases, Irish became part of the system. It took them time, right? But they were able to do that. You find a lot of Italians, so many Italians, amazing lawyers. They also joined the system. So many Jews, part of the lawyers, accountants, they joined the system. It was much easier for them to do so. It took time. And the parents had to bust their rumps and all those things. But imagine if there was a Black Wall Street, right? Black Wall Street. There was an Irish Wall Street. If the Irish had created, say, for the sake of argument, Hell's Kitchen, right? And it was a place where there were many Irish people doing stuff. And all of a sudden the government came in, literally, and this is what happened in Black Wall Street and many others, comes in, takes all the guns from the Irish people there, takes the men away, either kills them or puts them in prison, and then burns every house to the ground, every house and every business to the ground, and does that 50 times over the course of 100 years. More Irish communities. That didn't happen. That did happen with Black communities. In fact, the only successful coup ever was over a biracial government. When Blacks got into the government, the whites physically took over the government again with force and killed and lynched people. That did not happen for Italians, Jews, Irish, only Black. And of course, I'm adding Native Americans. They were slaughtered also. I'm adding them too. The difference is some of them were able to survive because of reservations and movements. Some Native Americans survived. None of the culture of African Americans survived. The descendants of slaves, none of it survived. I hope that was clearer. Again, I don't want to take down anything that many of the immigrant populations, they jump through hoops to get stuff done. I mean, absolutely, yes. So, all right. I'm not in a relationship with anyone except my wife. She'd shoot me. I like that. Sounds like we're all in an abusive relationship then. Yes, and I'm trying to be the couple's therapist. Yes, I'm trying to. That's what the leaders should be. They should be the therapist who says, come on, let's talk about this. Let's have this conversation. Absolutely. That's what they're talking about. Yes. The most rewarding relationships are also the most demanding. Yes. You just get more than you pay for. Yes. 100% true. Thank you. Yes. And well said. Yes. All right. Let's see if I keep going. I say the more we define it, the more infinite it gets. Just relax. The bad news is that bad is always going to happen. But the good news is that because of the bad news, we have the good news too. That's a good way of looking at it. But I want to make sure we do. I want to make sure we also accept what Brennan talked about. It doesn't mean we want to be nonchalant about it or not, or act like there's no problem, right? The reality of it is it will take a long time before we're able to repair these things. And we can't just think the world ends, right? One of the problems I have with some of the ideas coming up now is you wind up creating a permanent protected class. When you create a permanent protected class, to your point, Michael, you make the pain forever. You don't let people learn how to fish or even let them fish. You just keep giving them fish. Any permanent protected class will eventually become second-class citizens. And the best example I can give, I think, is probably women in America. I think it's a good example. Women in America, the glass ceiling still exists, but it's nowhere near what it was. But it was really bad, particularly in about the 70s or 80s. And those of you who are old enough to remember that, it was really bad in the 80s and the 70s. You had to basically be Superwoman to get promoted past a certain level. You had to be so exceptionally awesome that there was, or something like that, or have a family connection, or you weren't getting promoted. It was just terrible how that was done. And again, there's still some of that now, just nowhere near as bad. So what do women do? Instead of us going, well, you know what, let's protect women forever. And so what wound up happening is women started actually starting their own businesses. You say, well, Larry, affirmative action, the plans helped women a lot. This is true. In fact, affirmative action helped women more than it helped males or minorities. And that's true. It did help them. But it helped them get spots here or there. But they were still getting caught, right, at a certain level. When they went out on their own and started to become business owners their own, that's when women really became more powerful. It was obvious. All of a sudden, you had to do business with them because they were the ones doing the right stuff. And to this point, some of you may or may not know this, there are a lot of private equity, angel investors, venture capitalists who literally will not invest in the business unless it is at least partially women-owned, if not all women-owned. Now, that's officially illegal, I know, but that doesn't matter. They're not going to get their money. They're going to have an excuse to not do it. Most won't say it. Some will actually say it. They'll literally say, how many women in your company? Well, it's just me and my brother. No, thank you. No, thank you. That's what's happened now. That's how much. So I think you do want to help. I agree in helping. I do. But if you create a permanent protected class, you will create permanent second-class citizens. And women were able to get out of that and create their own powerhouses. And now you find a lot more. Please, I want to be clear. I'm not saying women are all of a sudden equal to men and everything. I'm not saying that. I'm saying if you compare us now to the 80s, way better. And to the earlier point that Jimmy brought up, women took responsibility and rocked it. Clearly rocked it. Look right now in America. People are teasing, wearing the shirts, the future is feminine. I know that's kind of like a cool thing to say. No, that's real. That's real. Look, guys, I hire and fire. That's part of what I do when I'm out there. Before my governor said I was not essential, part of what I was doing. And you're looking for talent? The talent's female. More degrees, more experience, higher grades, more of them in college, more lawyers, more doctors. You're looking for talent. I mean, those of you saw my team when I ran for office, a whole lot of women. My team now, a whole lot of women. People I work with, a lot of women. The talent is The talent pool there is women. Now, let me now bring that to Trump and the people supporting Trump. This is an opposite. This is almost this is the same but different. Does it make any sense? Maybe it doesn't. Anyway, let me go. You now find that when the people are rioting or were rioting down in DC, this is now a lot of white men feeling unheard. Riots, the voice of the unheard. This is predictable. That's my point. After 2009, there was almost no recovery outside of cities in this country. So rural places and suburban places were devastated, and they were devastated heavily males. Now, the COVID recession has affected more females than males, believe it or not. It's been much more of a female punishment this time. But 2009 was heavily male and heavily white male. If you look at that, white males, their life expectancy went down, drug abuse went up, all kind of problems. And who was talking to them? Only Trump was. I know people hate that. It's true, though. So, of course, also the voice of the unheard. This is predictable, guys. And how do we fix that? By calling them all racist? How is that helpful? But Larry, some of them are racist. Yes, true. Some of them are. I got it. And if you want to be righteous and call them out and call them racist, you can. And you'll find people in the group who absolutely are racist. You'll find it 100%. Shake your fist and go, see, there's another one. Caught him. You tell me 74 million Americans or whatever number voted for him, they're all, if there's actually, if it's true, if there are 74 million racist people in America who voted for him, if that was true, what are we doing? Cut the country up and move on, right? Am I wrong with that? Forget it, done. It's worth a divorce at that point, isn't it? But I'll tell you it's not accurate. I know Trump supporters, many of them. I know many Trump supporters. They're not all racist. These aren't. Are some? Yes. This is not a black and white issue. Pun intended. It's not a black and white issue. It is super gray and super nuanced. Let's have those conversations. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm trying to do. Absolutely. Yes. It is great time to break up. You could say that, but the breakup's expensive. It's expensive. And it's expensive in life. It's expensive in work. It's expensive in dollars. It's expensive in every way you can think possible. So you could, but man, is that it? Yes. So you've had me as a devout follower until you said feelings trump facts. What a shame. They do, brother. They just do. They turn them. They change them all the time. It's just, it's accurate. And I want you to understand that feelings matter. People change everything based upon feelings. Absolutely. Yes. So capitalism is a great way to take poor people and make them wealthier. True. This issue is as poor people, we were never taught about money, especially debt. Yes. Poor people were taught and made to stay poor. I grew up dirt poor and didn't learn about money and how it works till a few years ago. Yep. To end poverty, kids need to learn hard work, money management, dedication. Yes. Anyone can make in this country. This is literally yours. How many rappers went from ghetto to the top? All good until that last part. And let me tell you why on each one of those. You're totally right. And I used to sell cars. Some of you don't know that, but that was in my past. And when I would sell cars, I could tell whether someone came from a poor neighborhood or not almost every time. It wasn't a 100% rule, but it was a good 90% rule. And that is they would come to the car, they would come to buy the car. And if all they cared about was the monthly note, that's it. Nothing else. The monthly note, nothing else. How much is it going to cost me per month? What's it going to cost per month? They usually were from a poor neighborhood. Almost always. Again, not 100% rule, but almost always. Why? They had a renter's mentality. Can I afford this every month? That's it. They didn't care about the percentage of the loan. They didn't even care about the cost or the price of the car. I'm not joking. They didn't care what the car cost. They care how much the monthly note was, and that was it. The more savvier people who knew more about money, and when I say, I don't mean they weren't smart, so I'm not using the word smart. They were smart people who didn't understand it, to your point, right? So that's your point, Anthony. They were smart, they just didn't know this, so they weren't savvy. You know, people who weren't that smart, but they were savvy about this, like their uncle or dad or mom told them, hey, look for how much the car costs. Look for the, what's the percentage? what's the APR? What is that? You can tell a difference. You're totally right. I saw it constantly. It is an issue, and we have to teach people this. How do we do that? Well, this is a little off topic, but by not having the federal standards based upon tests that are just on English and math and nothing else. You do that, they teach only English and math. That's it. So you don't get civics, you don't get economics, you don't get any of that stuff in school anymore because everyone's worried about the test because that's where federal funds comes from. So yes, thank you. A little bit off topic, but I hope that was helpful. All right, see if I can go down a couple more of these. Larry, in honor of MLK, I have a dream that one day we will have a viable, better choice in this country besides communists and Nazis. Yes, the black and white, left and right. Absolutely, yes, 100%. All right, let's see if I can do this here. The media is obviously for the real reason. The media is oblivious for the reason for all the civil unrest. It's not about Trump or Biden. It's not about George Floyd. It's just what happens when you take away people's jobs, tell them they can't gather with friends or family, basically tell them they can't be human beings for 10 months because of a virus with a 90% survival rate. When you take away someone's sense of purpose, their reason for living, they will find new solution to all this to get people there. And I'm assuming he's going to say their life back. I didn't see that part, but thank you. Paul, valid points, 100%. I say it all the time, right? Why does everything explode as bad as it did? Because we had to sit in home and stay in our bubbles. I don't want people staying in their bubbles all day. I mean, imagine you're sitting home all day. You can't work. You don't have a job or whatever. You're on a government dole now. You're feeling like you're not doing well. You're not doing your bit or your part, or you're not feeling like a productive human being. You're not feeling that way. And now you're not giving a social, at least if you weren't being productive, you could at least be social, right? Now you can't be productive and you can't be social. So where's your tribe? Where's your connection? Where's your power? Where is it? Well, it's in going out and, yelling and screaming about George Floyd or going out, yelling and screaming about Trump's election. Yeah. Again, you're totally right, Paul. Predictable. And you might disagree and say, oh, it's not true. Oh my God, it's so bad. It's predictable. The number one reason why 2020 was so bad, there were many reasons, but the number one was the lockdowns. That's the number one reason. That made everything worse, right? Whatever would have happened multiplied because of the lockdown. You can't go out there and do all these bad things if you got to go to work the next morning. You just can't. You can't do it. And of all these things, what bothers me more than anything is that we have no actual change. Remember all the protests for George Floyd? What was the actual policy change that happened? Nothing. We fell back to culture war. We went to culture war. That was it. Culture war. The protest in D.C. about the election. What's the actual change that happened? Nothing. We fell back to culture war. So we fight culture wars. These are proxy wars that mean nothing. I know people get upset. People get mad because I won't get in the culture war. Why? It doesn't make my life any better or worse. It is. Well, it does because nothing gets better, right? Fighting the war itself is useless because it just makes things worse. But Larry, the perfect one I love. This one I love. Changing the pronouns used in Congress. Two reasons why it bothers me. Not to change the pronouns. I actually don't care if they change the pronouns or not. Good, change pronouns. Fine. Or don't. Fine. Why it bothers me is it doesn't matter to me at all. It does at all. My life isn't any better or worse. So I personally don't care. The vast majority of Americans, it will not make their life better or worse. Well, Larry, what about trans people? That's not going to make their life any better or worse. It's not. It might make some trans people feel better. Possibly. I don't know. I'm not in that community. I don't know if that's true. But maybe it will. Maybe that will make some trans people feel better. Perhaps. But it's going to make their life any better. No, it's not. At all. At all. So why are we fighting over it? So it doesn't make anything better. And man, we put it to the front. We put that to the front. We don't put anything to the front. There are at least 30 million Americans, at least, who believe that the elections were fraudulent. We have to fix that. They have to either believe that they weren't fraudulent, or we have to do an actual investigation to either show them that it wasn't fraudulent or to make changes so that it won't be fraudulent in the future or something. Something has to be done. Where's that? Where's that? Where's the police reform? Where's that? Where's the ending the war on drugs? Where's that? Nowhere. Well, we'll try to make, because now we're running out of money, we'll try to make, gambling and cannabis legal just so that big businesses can take it over, crushing small businesses so we can tax the hell out of it. And there'll still be a black market. So we're still going to have a war on drugs. Because not going to regulate like onions. They're going to regulate like California does with so much taxes, there's still a black market. So there's still a war on drugs. So they're going to legalize cannabis and still retain the war on drugs. That's what we got. So yeah, I'm clearly not happy about this. Absolutely. So, all right. See if I can keep doing this. All right. Mises would disagree with saying that humans act rationally. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's irrational. The book, I believe, is called Predictably Irrational by Dan Ariely. So yeah, I think that's right. Okay. All right. So if I can grab a couple more of these things. Let's see. Don't forget the protesters set fires and hurled rocks at cars, windows, etc. for the whole of Trump's inauguration day. Oh, is that right? There we go. Yes, more violence, which I'm unhappy with. I think the violence is a bad idea. All I'm saying is it's predictable. That's it. When the government becomes the parent, the citizen becomes the child. Oh, yes. In this case, time to call child services and have Ilduce King Cuomo and Kaiser Wilhelm Shea Blasey removed for financially molesting us and revoking our rights. It's actually pretty cool. I like that. It's good of it. Yes. So, all right. See if I can grab a couple more here. What about the no Irish and apply indentured servitude? Yeah, and that's what I was talking. The Irish went through a lot. I'm just saying they didn't go through 150 years of state-sponsored violence. Again, I keep bringing this up. This also is not black and white. It isn't that the Irish walked in and they went, oh, Irish, oh, it's so great. You run everything. Of course not. The Irish went through a ton of problems in our country. But the government did, and again, if you think I'm making this up, the government literally did not go to Irish leadership and execute them in their beds in the 60s. That didn't happen to the Irish, right? That happened to blacks as early as the 1960s, right? The Irish pain was far earlier than that, and still was pain. And at that time, there wasn't. Maybe you don't know this. In 1920, I think it's right. 1920, there was a march in D.C. The Ku Klux Klan marched in D.C. There were over 2 million members of the Ku Klux Klan. The KKK wasn't anti-Irish. They were anti-black, anti-Jewish, anti-Mexican. They weren't anti-Irish or anti-Italian. They weren't. They didn't like Italians and Irish. They didn't like them, but they weren't going out actively trying to hurt them. A different issue. The amount of violence was just not the same. So I hope that was clearer. I hope it was. So, and Brandon's always buying those onions. Go ahead, brother. I appreciate that. Yes. State-funded propaganda against black. Thank you. Also, yes. Right. There was some of that against Jews and Italians. There was a little bit of that. There wasn't much state-sponsored propaganda against the Irish. A little bit, but not much. There was more anti-Italian and more anti-Jewish. In fact, that of those three, the Jewish got the most state-funded propaganda. The Italians got probably the second most, and then probably the Irish. Black people got tons. I mean, that was the norm, right? The norm was there were literally laws against interracial marriages, right? There wasn't a law against an Irish person marrying an Italian person. Now, did cultures decide they didn't want to intermarriage? Sure, but that was voluntary. Sure, that was voluntary. But there were literally laws against black and otherwise. I'll go one step further. Did any of you guys happen to see the movie Fury? And it was a Brad Pitt film about an American tank crew in World War II. In that movie, there's a Mexican driver. You think, wow, well, why didn't they have a black driver? Because the only segregated units, with the exception of Japanese, for a specific time, were black units. You could be Mexican, you could be Irish, you could be Italian, you could be Jewish, and you could be in the army with everybody else. Black? No. There was a 1940s or maybe 1950 movie called Battleground, and they were literally showing Jewish people who were in the army at that time, right? No blacks. No people who were black. None. Because they were segregated. That didn't exist for the Irish Americans, Italian Americans, Jewish Americans. It only existed for Black Americans only. In fact, even, I mean, some of you know that you've seen the Nicolas Cage movie, I think it was it Code Walker? Oh, I don't remember the name of it. Wind Talker? Ooh, anyway, it was a movie. The Navajo Native Americans actually were with units, white units. Now, with the exception of the Japanese, when the Japanese were at war, we were with Japan, they were separate, segregated Japanese units, right? In that case. But otherwise, not even Asians could join the military and mix and match. Didn't matter. So that's the differences. I hope that was at least clear what I'm saying here. So yes, here's a link to the Juneteenth one for those of you who care. Yes. Larry, how should the Libertarian Party break negative stereotypes around it? How to make the party more appealing to new voters? Keep doing what I'm doing. That's it. Just keep doing what I'm doing. Don't stop doing what I'm doing. So, all right, let me move a little further if I can. And yeah, again, someone put this up already. Yes. Okay. Trump will be president of the 1700 minutes. I don't want to focus on that. I don't, right? I don't at all. So let me keep moving down this road if I can. Okay. Imagine if we simply looked at something like one of MLK's sayings, justice, I'm just going to get it right, justice delayed is justice denied. That's true. And sadly, simply can't change without time. I know that sounds bad if you're that person. I know I'm one of those people. I get it. It just doesn't change without time. People have to change. Cultures have to change. People have to change their ways of doing things and thinking, right? It's just how it works. And I'll give you the first time that I remember it in my own world. This was maybe 1980, I think, I think it was 1980, 1979. It was in that area. I moved from the Bronx to Long Island, and I had to go into a school. And I'm going to a school there. I had all the great grades. I was the highest in my grade, all that stuff when I was in my school in the Bronx. And my father took me to, go ahead into the school here. They said, well, we're going to put him in the lower grade and he can work his way up, right? And see if he gets good grades and then work his way up. And my father said, no, he has the best grades. Why would you put him in the lower grade? He's got the higher grade. And the principal said, yeah, but he's a city kid. And, city kids don't always do as well out here. What he meant was he's black. He didn't say that, but that's what he meant. He's black. And my father was, of course, upset. So my father said, then test him now. He didn't want to test me. He's like, no, put him in a lower class. He'll work his way up. But my father knew how that worked. My father understood that was the bias that was there. Was this principal prejudiced? Was he racist? Maybe. I don't know. It's just, 40 years ago, right? More than that. I didn't remember. Maybe I don't remember it well enough to remember if he was or wasn't. I don't know. He didn't seem to treat me any differently afterwards. I don't remember him doing it. I mean, he might have. I didn't feel like he did. But I remember when I got into the actual class. I passed the test, of course, and I got into the class, the highest class in that school. There was one black girl and me. I think it was an Indian kid, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, maybe. And maybe a Hispanic girl, I think. And that was it. That was it. And then, of course, you look at the yearbook, all over classes, all black. Hispanic, black and Hispanic, all that way. That's not the same now, but it's close. We still find that. So should my father have gotten mad and said, you got to now test all the kids in the school? Test all the black kids and see if any of them should be in the top class. Should he have done that? Sure. Should we have changed that right away? Sure. Should we have forced the school to do so? Yeah, absolutely. And what would have happened if my father had done that? Odds are he would have been arrested. Well, he probably wouldn't. He was law enforcement. So he wouldn't have. In theory, he would have been arrested, but he was law enforcement, so he wouldn't have been. But if he's arrested, there's no way he can do that. Should he have? Sure, in theory. Should we have been righteous and shaking our fists and said, let's want change now? Maybe. Should we have protested? Maybe, but I would ask a very important question. A very important question. We've been protesting a lot recently. What's actually changed? Something you got to ask yourself. What's actually changed? What's been more effective than protesting. To be full with you all, all these groups of us talking together are making actual change. Far more than being out there in the streets. Far more. This is more effective, sadly, than protesting. Will you see it? I know I made some of you angry. I'm sorry. But I'm just telling you what I feel. As long as there are check boxes to differentiate, there will be division. It's a sad reality, the amount of division propagated today. We were divided. We were not divided in the 80s. I think the check boxes are a problem in general. I think there are some exceptions, obviously. I mean, there are certain reasons why you'd want a check box. For example, if you have a problem with your veteran community, you might want to check box for your veteran community so they can have affiliate programs to keep veterans staying in your large organization. So I think there are reasons for some check boxes, but I do think you're right. When it comes to the check boxes for all the races, it can be a problem unless you're using it in the right way, if it makes any sense. I think most aren't. I think most of the time they're not at all. And our answer becomes make more check boxes, right? Make more boxes, and then we'll be fine, right? If we just make more boxes. And my rule is I either want 1 box or 7 billion boxes. Either way, we're good, right? 1 box or 7 billion boxes, we're fine. But your point's valid. I do think some organizations use them well. Most don't. Yes. Do you think there's a better word to use or just avoid pointing out the behavior at all? No, I think you do want to point out behavior, but there's a difference between pointing out behavior and calling someone out. Those are 2 separate things. And I think, pointing out the behavior is far more important, right? I'll give this example. And this is as example when it comes to women again. You might say, Larry, why are you bringing up women or relationships and such? Because all of this is just about being the other. All of this is about being outside of a tribe, whatever tribe I decide. In this case, it could be race, could be family, could be Boston Red Sox fan versus Yankee fans, which of course Boston Red Sox fans are the worst by default. I'm sorry. I'm baseballist. Is that what the word is? Anyway, no, I'm a Yankee fan. I'm teasing you. Red Sox fans. I'm teasing you. Just teasing. So, but my point is, you do want to point the behavior out. And this is the example I'll give you. This was a true story. I was doing a class for an accounting firm. This is years ago, maybe 10 years ago. I don't remember how long ago it was. I'm talking about a gender communication. Yes, I do a class on gender communication. That's so funny, right? But yeah, I was talking about this issue. And all my classes on gender, diversity, all of them, they're all really the same class. My diversity training or gender training or any of those trainings isn't about the stuff you hear now at all. It's all about the same thing I'm telling you now. It's about emotional intelligence. Because emotional intelligence is the only way that you actually break stereotypes or deal with issues in any organization. Anything else is just ways of taking your money and checking a box to say you care. That's all. Diverse training does not work. It doesn't work at all. Sorry, regular diverse training does not work at all. It's virtually useless. All this is check a box so you don't get sued when someone calls somebody a racial slur. See, we did diversity training. We checked our box. It doesn't make anything better, though. But anyway, besides the point. So I was doing a gender issue class. And when I was doing it, we took a break. And when we took a break, one of the principals, who was in his 70s then, took a phone call. And when he took his phone call, he was talking to somebody. I don't know who the person was. He ended it with, yeah. I'll have my girl send it over to you. Now, some of you didn't even notice that, but some of you did. He said, I'll have my girl send it over. Now, in that room, the room was at least half filled with savvy, educated, credentialed, professional women. At least half of the room was that, right? Again, savvy, educated, professional, credentialed women in that room. How do you think they felt? Some of them didn't even notice, but some did. Some did notice. And I was so happy. I wish I had planned this. I didn't. It just happened to happen. He turned around and one of them said to him, only this, do you know how that made us feel? That's all she said. She didn't go, you misogynist, you're terrible. She didn't do any of that. She just said, do you know how that made us feel? And you could watch his face. I use this story often because it's so good. He just went. He just watched his mouth open. He got it, like it hit him. They didn't attack him. They just pointed out the behavior. That's it. And he went, oh my God. And he started explaining, that's not what I meant. Right. And I stepped in because he was starting to feel bad and he was the boss. So I stepped in and said, guys, I hope you understand what he's trying to say. Everybody here, you can see that his intent was not to hurt. His impact was hurtful to some people. And he can acknowledge that. He's like, yo, yes, I didn't mean that. I am sorry. I didn't mean that. And so what happened? He began to see that what he was saying was hurting people. They didn't attack him as, a bigot or whatever. They didn't do any of that. Woman hater. They didn't do that. I began to explain to help him out. That was me explaining. I said, look, you got to remember, he was 70, and this is like the year 2013, maybe, I'm guessing, that area. So when he was coming up as a young accountant, that was literally the name of the person that their job title was Girl Friday. Some of you may remember that from the 60s and 70s. That was actually a job title that was on your resume. Girl Friday or Office Girl was the actual title back in the day. So he did grow up with some of that. So that's kind of how he felt. Now, does that mean he has to change his habits? Yes, because now what he's saying has a negative impact, and he should make a change. He should. Absolutely. Now, somebody today might go, oh my God, he's horrible. He should be fired. Cancel culture. If you had done that to him and had said, you're terrible, you're a bad person, you need to be fired, what would have happened? He would have doubled down. He would have doubled down. And you know what actually happens in these worlds? And those of you who work in a corporate environment, you know what happens? What happens is all of a sudden, the woman who pointed it out, all of a sudden next quarter, she has performance issues. Yep. All of a sudden her reviews get bad. Why? Because now they want to fire her. She's a troublemaker and they have to have a reason. So they now create reasons to get rid of her. That's what actually happens. And then everyone else who sees it, although the women who see it, do nothing because now they're afraid they're next. So you've just made sure with cancel culture, with zero tolerance, you've just made sure that now no woman says anything ever. And you wonder why women wait 30 years before they come out. Because that's what they get with cancel culture, with zero tolerance. That's what actually happens. And then the men now who saw it go, oh, I can't say anything because I'm next, so I'm going to shut up. So if you had any allies, they're gone, if you had any. And then the jerk men are like, yeah, this is how that works. Yeah, you get them, boss. That's what you get. So the allies you had are gone, and those who were the bad guys are now emboldened. That's what actually happens when you call the person out. But when you point out the behavior, there's a chance for actual change. And if we want to fix our racial issues here, just point out the behavior. Explain the impact without having to assign the intent. And there are a lot of people who will think I'm wrong with that. You will hear people literally say, you can't take them separately. They are the same. Those people are wrong and they are hurting this country. They are wrong. You can believe it if you want to. I don't mind. I still love you. You can still watch the show. I'm just telling you, pointing out behavior is a good idea. Meg, please point out the behavior. It's a wonderful idea. What I'm saying is you don't have to attack the person. If the person's a bad person, and in this case that was real, let me go fictitious. What if this guy was a bad guy? What if he was? What if he was a really bad guy? What would he have said? Well, now you girls are mad about... He would have shown his true colors. And he didn't. This actually happened to me once. I'll give you one more. This is on race. I was in an office when I was the only person of color in the entire office. And this was probably the 90s, I think. It was in the 90s. And the term African-American was just kind of coming into the norm of corporate culture, right? Most people were still saying black, but it was starting to come in, right? So a woman is talking about this thing with this guy who was performing this task. She wanted to say he was black. So she's a white girl. White people are around. She says, and this guy, he was, and she looks at me and doesn't know what to say. She doesn't know what to say. She's black. And she then says, I'm not joking. She says, colored guy. And most people hear that like, what? Are you kidding me? She used the word colored in the 90s? What? Did I get angry? I didn't. Did I like it? Of course not. But did I get angry? No, because I looked at her and I saw she was trying to do the right thing. She was trying, but there was so much stuff. And it was what do I say now? What's the right word? And if I had been a jerk to her, how dare you, racist? First off, she would have thought, wow, to hell with all you coloreds is what she would have thought, right? Of course she would have thought that. Of course she would have. The boss would have been mad at me, and I'd have found myself fired real soon. That's what would have actually happened. But I didn't. I said, it's okay. Look, I don't mind black. I said it because I didn't then. I don't now either, but then I didn't either. I was like, I don't mind black. Black is fine, right? As long as I'm not using the N-word, I'm pretty much good, right? But black is fine. And a lot of people are now using African-American. She's like, yeah, well, he was a black guy. Okay, great. Black guy, got it. And that's basically what happened. And you could see her just go, okay, I can handle this. And I was like, yeah, you can. It's totally fine. Being around black people is okay. It's totally fine. And she got that. The whole office was like, okay, we can handle this. Yeah, you can handle this. It's okay. You can do this. We can all do this. It's okay. So I say that, Meg. I know it went long, guys. I'm sorry I went long on that one. But I wanted you to understand, it's not you don't call it out, but there's a difference between pointing out the behavior and calling out the person. There's a difference. And I hope that was clear, Meg. I hope it was. So, all right, see if I can keep going here. Let's see if I can go here. Suddenly, Dems, Dem govs, and mayors want to open up for business, all for Biden to get a bump in the economy. That might be true, but I'm not sure. I actually think a lot of governors are still scared. And the problem is, if they go too fast in opening, it kind of shows that shutting down last year was a bad idea. So they kind of can't, right? Because they don't want people to realize how bad they were and how stupid it was. Yes. Clear communication is the best fix for any problem in my experience. Yes, yes, and yes, Meg. Yes, yes, and yes. Absolutely. Larry, keep making this much sense and they will never let you on cable news. I like that. They in news. That's really good. I appreciate that. Yes. Accurate, but incredibly invalidating. Oh, Meg, thank you when you put that. Yes, invalidating. Thank you. You wind up invalidating people. Perfect. Yes, absolutely. Yes. For the record, I always try and work on my communication skills, especially when talking politics and issues like racism. Jimmy, yes, we have to. I want us to be able to we can't fix if we don't talk. We just can't. We have to talk. We've got to be able to communicate and make this better, right? I get the anger that people have, right? I get the anger when I see so many, right now, Democrats. This was a Republican thing before, but right now, Democrats, almost every policy they bring up, they go out of their way, and I mean out of their way to say, and the first focus will be on people of color or people of this, out of their way to say it. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't do that. I'm going to be clear. It's not that you shouldn't care about people who are in trouble. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, how are you invalidating? Thank you, Meg. You're invalidating every person who's not of color, right? You're invalidating them all. You're saying, oh, so my pain doesn't count? And you wonder why so many people rush to Trump. The left has gone out of its way to alienate the average white male. Out of their way. I mean, gone out of their way to do it. I know lots of white males. Many of them are my friends. I know many of them. And many of them feel the same way. Like, wow, I don't care. Now, to be fair, if you're a person of color, don't you think, well, you've had it for all these years. If you're a woman, you've been in charge for all these years. Of course you feel that. I get it. I understand that feeling too. The question is, does it make sense? Is the results of your communication by going, to hell with you white guys, is that going to make things better? I would say, if you look at what happened in the Capitol a couple weeks ago, no. That's what I would say. It's not going to make things better. That's my point. And I think we have to discuss racism without making everyone feel like the other. Absolutely. The issue is that many people lack empathy. Key word, Bernard. Key word, empathy, yes. And oftentimes put their emotions first while thinking about the other person's. Yeah, well, what about me, right? What about me? Yeah, this is the rights all lives matter retort. Or blue lives matter retort. That doesn't care about the people, about the feelings of the people who are being hurt now, right? The analogy I love is when someone says, hey, doc, my bone is broken, right? I broke my arm. Well, all bones matter. They do, but this one's broken now, so look at this one now. Doesn't mean all the rest of the bones aren't important. They're all important. But this one's broken right now. Can we fix this one? So, not that it isn't accurate. Again, it's accurate. But to Meg's point, Meg, I'm stealing your stuff. It's great. It invalidates all the rest. I don't want to invalidate. So when someone says, I want to, we have to work on helping people who are part of the gay or lesbian community, as an example. It doesn't mean that we don't want to help other people. But if that community happens to be hurting now, we can focus on them now. My worry is it now becomes cool or virtue signaling to always say, we're gonna start giving out driver's licenses. Okay, great. And we're gonna focus on Black and Hispanic. What? Yeah. And we're gonna now, start, voting now. Okay. And we're gonna focus on Black and Hispanic. What? Why would you even say that? Why would you have to announce that? Why would that be a thing? It is constantly on everything. And at one point, people start thinking, I'm not part of your tribe. And that's the problem. I'm not part of your tribe. People now are saying things. I see it all online. People tell me, oh, Republican Party's dead. Republican Party's dead. Okay, great. What tribe are they going to go to then? They become Democrats tomorrow. Well, some, yes. All right. Obviously, there are some people who are Republicans who are leaning Democrat already. That percentage, whatever that is, I don't know, is that 10%, 5%, whatever that part might go Democrat. Maybe. But the vast majority, they're Republicans for a reason. That's what they think. That's their tribe. They're going to go to other tribe. I have a tribe. You can come to my tribe. I love it. Your Me Too analogy reminds me of the people saying Trump is like Hitler. Yes, it minimizes how truly evil Hitler was, in my opinion. Bob, I'm with you. Yes, 100%. That's my point, right? And I'll go back to my piece about the accounting firm. If they had yelled at him and said he's a woman hater or something like that, oh my God, or the one I've heard, if a woman feels like she's been, assaulted, then she has. I've heard these sayings before. No, there is a difference. If that guy was by no means a woman hater, he was an old school guy who needed to have some bad habits adjusted. That's really what he was. He was an old school guy that had to have some of his bad habits adjusted so he could show respect to his employees, because a big chunk of his employees were women, savvy, educated, credentialed women, and you should respect them. You should. So he needed a change. He wasn't a woman hater, and there's a difference. You're totally right. So let's see. Larry, this fall I'm running for town board. Love it, brother. Keep going. Tips. Head to, there is, if you go to my Sharpe Way YouTube page, there's a video there saying how to run libertarian. How to run a Nope, sorry, that's not true. It is on my Sharpe Way page. There's a YouTube video on my Larry Sharpe Libertarian YouTube page. Go down a little bit, you'll see it talks about running a libertarian campaign. I give you specifics. It's about 45 minutes long on what you should do. I hope that will help. So, all right. Politically, what do you see at the extreme left, right, and perfect center of the political spectrum? This is a very tough question. I'm not sure. I'm assuming you mean in America, obviously. I'm not sure what is extreme left and extreme right, and if there is a perfect center. I think right now the extreme left is probably It's a tough question because there are patches of the extreme left that are very much almost communism to the point of anarchy. They're tiny though. They're not a big part of the mainstream left. So let me go to what I think extreme mainstream left is. Extreme left is basically purest communism form of anarchy, if that makes any sense. That's the extreme left. But they're a very small percentage of America. Not many people fall into that area, but some do. I think the mainstream extreme left is probably the Bernie level or Bernie style socialism, the type where you have socialized medicine. You don't allow people to earn a certain amount of money at a certain amount. They get no more money. It all goes to the government. Basically 100% tax after a certain amount. I think that's probably one of the biggest ones. And UBI, where everyone gets, a stipend. Everyone gets free health care. and there is no private insurance. I think that's probably the extreme left in the mainstream. Right is probably much more the nationalist side. Keep everything home, more isolationists than we've ever been before. Keep the stuff home, close the borders down totally. I think that's probably more of the extreme right now. I don't think there is a center. I think the center is what most Americans are, and they mix back and forth. You can find someone who's all about, shutting the border down, and they want healthcare for all. So you can find people mix and match all the time, right? Or someone says, look, bring all the jobs home, but also they think that people shouldn't be billionaires. Well, the reverse, they want billionaires. Billionaires are great, and they want healthcare. So I think the middle is a mix and match of everything, that people bounce around. The only reason why we stay left or right is because of our tribe, even though we think differently. We are far more united by what we hate than by what we believe in. So if I hate socialism, I go to the right. If I hate, nationalism, then I go to the left. That's kind of how that works, even though in each specific issue, I may change. So I hope that was clear. So, all right. Larry, how do we tackle when the racism conversion is used to advocate bad ideas? For example, some people see communism as anti-racist. Subsequently, only racists would not support communism. Yeah, this is a great point. And communism, if you just listen to it, right, them talk about communism, sounds great. I mean, if any of you study communism, if you don't look at the actual results and you just listen to what is said, sounds amazing. Everybody gets cool stuff. There's no class. There's no, men and women are equal. I mean, it sounds great. It has never worked that way that I know of. And if it has worked someplace, please let me know. I've never seen it work that way. But the talk is amazing, right? It sounds amazing. It just never actually works. I think the deal with the issue is, what is anti-racist? And I think some people are talking about this idea that the way to be anti-racist is to call out all the racists, to look at everything from the perspective of race. And if you're talking about a theoretical conversation, that I'm just talking about what are the origins of such, this is not necessarily a bad idea. I don't think the idea of even critical race theory in a conversation with people about how things work, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? If it's just a theoretical conversation. But the problem is, how does it actually manifest itself? How it winds up manifesting itself in actual day-to-day conversations with people in work and policies is not always a great thing. In fact, often it does the opposite. It makes people angry. It puts them in their own bubbles. It makes them move away and become even angrier. So what I would do is the same thing I mentioned before. When someone talks about anti-racist, don't be mad at them. The odds are, and I want to be clear, there are some people who are trying to hurt and make things worse and know it and are purposefully doing it. But to be forward, again, those are very few people. Most people take on the idea of anti-racist because it sounds good. See, I'm not a racist. I'm anti-racist. It sounds good. It feels good to say that, right? People got mad at me when I wasn't so harsh on the average BLM protester in the summer, and I wasn't that harsh on the average protester in DC either, right? I have empathy for it, right? I know that most people there, while there were bad people, doing stuff in both of these cases, the average person didn't think that. The average person who's marching in BLM thought, I don't have to work. I have nothing else to do. My friends are doing it. I don't hate black people. This is a good idea. Let's go out. You're anti-racist. That sounds great. Yeah, I'm anti-racist. The average person thinks that. The average person doesn't get what actually happens when this stuff actually goes into play. They don't get it. So the answer is to just talk to them. It's that simple. It's that much of a pain. It's that difficult, but it is that simple, right? The difference between being hard. It can be simple and still be hard, right? The answer is simple. Talk. It can be hard. They don't often want to hear it. We sometimes have to have many conversations, but just talk about what the outcomes are. And what I would say always is, if you're going to call people out and call them racist and call them, members of the white supremacy cult, and do that, you can, But now what? What's the next step? Do they all of a sudden go, wow, you've insulted me and insulted my culture. You know what? I'm with you now. I don't think that happens. I mean, maybe it's happened before. I don't think that happens. I think they go, now I'm doubling down. And all those negative things the people in the back have been telling me about people like you, Jack, you know what? They're right. Because you just insulted me. They're right. You've actually made things worse. You've made things worse. So talk, and talk. That's the most important thing. Absolutely. So, all right, see if I can keep this going on. Shame does not work if you talk to people and if necessary, get them the help they need. Yes, and Paula, I want someone to want to be better in any way, shape, or form. And not to be better themselves necessarily. I mean, that's always good if you want to improve yourself. I hope we all want to improve ourselves. One of the reasons why I do this show is so I can go back and forth with you guys, because sometimes I'm wrong or I miss something or someone gives me some gold, like Meg gave me that great gold today. So I love that stuff. And we should all be trying to make ourselves better. Of course we should. But I hope we want to make our environment better. And I mean cultural environment. So we should want to get better. Absolutely. So, all right. So the thing I'm running into is that it isn't always welcomed when I, as a white person, try to be an ally. Yes. Oh my God. Yes. I get it on some level, but I never know how to respond in a way that people know I still stand with them without overstepping. Is there any general advice you can offer in handling situations? Yeah, I try very hard, right? You saw me do it just recently, right? I've left people who are part of the LGBT community or people of the GSM community on. I left people part of sex workers on. It's not my community. Like I'm an ally. I try to be an ally, right? But it's not my community. But I do it by being around them as much as possible. And I think the way to is being around them as much as you can and let them know is that what you just said. And I actually said that last week when I had a woman on, and I said, look, I want to be a good ally, but man, sometimes it's hard. I told her that. I was very forward. And she's like, you're right. If some of you saw that show, she's like, you're right. Sometimes it's hard. You're right. And we have to work better for that. And I think we do. I want to be an ally. I absolutely do. I want to be an ally to women who are trying to become, who are trying to bring that gap up to equal, right? I get it. I'm trying to be an ally for that too. For those of you know, I hire women often. I work with women often. I mentor women, which let me bring that up if I could. Meg, to answer your question, it's keep trying. Let them know you're trying to be an ally. And if the person is still mad at you or angry at you, walk away. I don't mean to be mean, but walk away. They don't want an ally. It's okay. They don't want an ally. Let them know. I'm trying to be an ally here. Am I making a mistake? What can I do to be a better ally? It's what I asked. I'm pricing what I preach. It's what I asked her, Dr. Robinson. I just asked her last week. I said, Julia, I said, I want to be a better ally. What can I do? And they will tell you or they won't. And if they don't care. Move on. If they do, great. Now I get it. But I want to bring up what you just mentioned. If you begin to push people away, you're going to lose allies. That makes no sense to me, right? I want every ally I can get, so I don't push people away. What do you think I'm always saying? If you disagree with me, please stay. I know you're upset. Please stay. I want you here. Some people I know who watch this show are never going to become libertarians. I got it. You're going to stay Democrat. You can stay Republican. But you can still be my ally. You can still be my ally because sometimes we're going to be exactly on the same page. Sometimes you're like, Larry, yep, okay, that's the one. You and I, this issue matters to both of us. We're together. And I need you to be my ally because I want the same thing you want in this case. So again, I'm trying to practice what I preach. I want to be able to be an ally and to mentor people. And what's happening and you're seeing this in the business world with the Me Too movement going to the point where there is almost no such thing as a warning anymore. It is zero tolerance. Any mistake, you're guilty. Any mistake, it's the same as sexual assault, right? Any mistake, same sexual assault. That's where the pendulum has swung in many areas. And in that case, what you start having, men refusing to mentor women. Now, to be forward, you're not seeing much of that happen as bad in COVID because people aren't out networking as much, right? But when people aren't networking, for those of you who know, in the bigger deals of the world, it is actually less your talent or your skill set and more whether I trust you or not, because the assumption is things will go wrong. The question is, will you be there to fix them or not? Will you be there to make things right? So trust becomes much higher than skill set. Well, if you don't spend time around people, you don't network and talk, you don't trust. So what usually happens is someone who's older mentors someone who's younger and brings them in and then start teaching them how to do things, who to meet, relationships begin to happen. Now, as I've been mentioning to you, the future has been female. There's been a lot of female talent coming up in all areas, right? If you watch TV shows, the scientists now, they're women, where 20 years ago, none were women. I mean, on TV. Now, lots of them, maybe half are women now. That wasn't a thing 20, 30 years ago. The future is, you see it happening everywhere. Well, now in the business world, most of the top is still men. So they have to mentor women so that the women can come up and get those relationships and understand how things work and get those things. And you're finding the men starting to back off now because they're afraid. They're afraid. They're like, maybe I'm not going to mentor you. That is a downside to this. Now, there's been an advantage. It's been a hurtful advantage, but there has been one, is women have left and become their own entrepreneurs because they can't get mentored anymore. COVID actually made that, slow that down a bit. But I think when we're done with the COVID response, I think you're going to see more women go off on their own again because men are still afraid too many men are still afraid to mentor. That's an issue, right? So I think there is a downside to that. Anyway, I hope I went there. I want everyone to be humans first. Thank you, Joe. Even better. I like that. Larry, of course, bigotry still in tiny spots still lurk in the shadows in all its forms, as comic Dave Smith stated. However, media left have normalized anti-white racism. Normalized anti-white racism. I'm not sure if I'd go that far. What I would say is the group that has not been protected in mainstream media is the poor white person. That person can still be made fun of. The wealthy white person, I guess, still could too in a way, but not as much. I think that's true. I think the poor white person in our culture can still be made fun of, which of course is why they're so angry. Why can you make fun of me and nobody else? And of course, the people who've been made fun of for decades and for centuries go, well, because you've been, making fun of us for centuries. Well, let me go back to that marriage issue. The problem that you had was with my cousin, wasn't with me. Why am I paying the price for my cousin? Now, the reality of it is, if we both take responsibility, let's talk this out. You have some valid concerns. My cousin was bad to you. In my family, too, I get it. I know my cousin. Let's talk this out. I have to take some of the brunt because I care about you, but you got to take some pushback, too, because we're both in this relationship. I think that has to happen. So I'm not sure anti-white racism, but there's also, what I would say? Here's what I would say. What has become mainstream, and I've seen it even on my own show, is white blaming. I think that's true, right? That's become more mainstream. I remember I had a couple of shows. One was about, if you remember the show, it was about sex workers. And when I asked the question about, well, what about, why is pornography okay, but sex work isn't, right? Why is that the case? And the first thing the desk said was, well, because some white man decided so. And that, right? So that white blaming becomes okay. Oh, okay, because the white guy did it. So he's the bad guy. So I think that's true. White blaming has become much more mainstream than it ever was. I don't think that would have been said 15 years ago. I think that would have been like, what? Now people saying, oh, yeah, it's true. I've had many of my guests bring that up. If you've been watching this, you've heard people say it. Well, it's some white guy doing it. It's just another white guy doing stuff. I think you hear that. And it's almost always white guy or white men. So I even want to be more specific on that. I think white male blaming has become very common and much more open and mainstream. I think that's where I would go. I don't want to say anything bad about Dave. I like Dave. I think he's great. But that's where I would go myself. So yes. Can you shed some light on the all lives matter crowd? That's a broad statement. I'm not sure where you're going with that. What I mean by that is all lives matter is an accurate statement. It absolutely is. All lives do matter without question. It just becomes insensitive. And the impact of that sounds bad. It's like I go to you, Chelsea, and I go, my mom died. And you go, look, all moms die. Yeah, but wow, that was insensitive. Yes, all moms die, but mine just died. So be nice to me. Have some empathy. Just go, aw. That's all I want is aw. That's all I wanted. And you should just go, oh, Larry, I'm sorry. And I've been pretty happy about that. But saying, well, all moms die, which is accurate, it just makes me feel bad. It's insensitive. And that's what I think about the All Lives Matter crowd, right? George Floyd just died. So, of course, Black Lives Matter, right? The other shootings just had happened, right? So, of course, Black Lives Matter. The response to All Lives Matter, while true, is just insensitive. That's it. The proper response is, they do. Oh, I'm sorry. That's it. When I bring up these race issues, and I speak only for me on this, I'm very clear, only for me, I don't want anyone who's not Black to think, oh, now I owe Larry Sharpe something, or I owe this, or I owe that, or it's my fault. Not at all. It's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, I'm sorry. Not looking for that. You didn't do anything, Chelsea. I mean, I don't think you did, right? I have no reason for you to apologize to me. What I would like, what makes me feel good, and it's just my emotion only, is, yeah, Larry, wow, Black people, tougher, definitely tougher. And I'm pretty good. That's it. That's all. Not, well, the Jewish people had it tough, or insert thing here, right? That's All Lives Matter, right? If at this moment I'm talking about Black people having problems, and your response is, well, my people had problems, it's true. I'm not taking it away. It just feels insensitive. It doesn't feel good. It's emotional. It feels good to go, you're right. If you notice, when people said in the comments, what about the Irish? I immediately said, yeah, you're right. I gave the empathy. It's true. Irish people had a lot of problems when they came to this country. It wasn't like, yay. In fact, many times they were drafted into the army unknowingly. I mean, there's crazy things that happened to the Irish. Absolutely. I'm just saying it's different. And if you want to talk about that, as a separate piece, I'm happy to go down that road and express how difficult it was. Jewish people, I mean, we turned back, America turned back Jews from Nazi Germany and sent them back to Germany during Nazi times. Come on. So, of course that happened. So I hope that was clearer if what I was trying to say. It's accurate. It's just insensitive and it doesn't feel good. And if you're trying to be an ally or trying to not make things bad, just go, I'm sorry, you're right. Boom. We're good. That's all I'm looking for. And I think my gut is most people just want a little bit of empathy, not necessarily sympathy, right? Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is understanding where they're coming from. So I just want to go, yeah, Larry, I get where you're coming from. Yeah, that's tough. That's it. So let me now go to the next piece if I could. What I often talk about in this case is I talk about the idea of, reparations. And you'll find lots of people say, we can't have reparations or we must have checks. And I get the feeling for both. I do. There is an issue with the Black situation in America that others didn't have. In the case where the government directly attacked people, Japanese internment camps, things of that sort, there has been some formal apology and some form of reparations. The German government is still paying survivors of Jewish families to this day, and apology and all kind of stuff. So of course that does happen. What happened in America was special, and we have a special problem now. The problem now is, if you want to get reparations now, this goes back to our family issue. I'm punishing people who had nothing to do with it, right? And I'm giving money to people, or whatever I'm giving to people who weren't there. So, wow, that becomes tougher. It doesn't feel right. Something's wrong about it. How was it fair? Holy crap, is that hard to do, right? Now, for some context on this, there was a plan for reparations. Some of you have heard of it before. And again, I did it in my Juneteenth special, 40 acres and a mule. You heard that before. The concept was, and it was a brilliant concept, and I wish it had actually worked because we wouldn't have all the problems that we had now. I'm not joking how important this was. What was supposed to happen is the wealthy white slave owners of the South were supposed to give up their land and give it back to slaves who have been working on it for decades. That makes sense, right? The wealthy whites who were slave owners who benefited from slave labor. Those are the people who did the bad stuff. They pay the price. The poor white guy who didn't have slaves doesn't pay the price. Who pays the price? The wealthy white slave owner. Directly. Makes total sense. You give them up, and it was supposed to be 40 acres per family. That's how they came up with some number. I forgot who did it, but that was the number. And then after the war was over, the army literally had thousands and thousands of mules. They used to use to move goods, move services, move pieces of artillery. They didn't need them anymore. So you give a mule to every family. So you take you can kill the mules or keep paying for them or give them to the former slaves. Brilliant idea. You give them land, you give them a mule, good luck. To be forward, some of you don't know this, that actually happened because that was an edict. I think Sherman gave the edict, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Sherman. It might have been Grant, but I think it was Sherman gave that edict. And people started doing it, and the black people heard it. The former slaves heard it, and they went back to their old land, started carving it up, and started farming at the end of the war. They started doing it. Like, great, we're free now. We get our land back. We worked on it. Life is good. Lincoln shot. Andrew Johnson comes in as president and goes, oh, no, you will not have that. And I'll be very forward. This was the beginning at post-Civil War of government-sponsored violence that stayed with us until the war on drugs. And that's the issue. Literally, troops came in and forcibly removed the black settlers, forcibly removed them and gave the land back to the slave owners and made the slaves become either they had to physically leave or they were physically killed or they became sharecroppers, which means basically serfs instead of slaves. That's what actually happened. The government did this. The individual people there didn't, right? Because the average poor white guy just wasn't affected. So he might have been mad about it because, oh, these damn black people. He might have been that, but he wasn't physically doing anything until the army came in. That's what actually happened. If that had actually not happened and the slaves were able to get actually 40 acres and a mule and grow their own land and sell if they wanted to or work back and forth, imagine what the South would have been like instead. The reparations would have already happened. We would not have this conversation. It would have been over already. You wouldn't have been able to have segregation. It wouldn't have happened. Everything would have been better if that plan had been put into place. It wasn't. Instead, violence, punish them, make them second-class citizens again, punish them again, and even as the black population began to grow itself out anyway, literally go and burn again, boom, 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 keep going, right? So now what do you do? Well, here is I think, is the biggest issue. The biggest issue that black families have had versus other families is the wealth that they have grown. They have not been able to grow wealth and then share it among their families and give it down through generations. So my idea for reparations is one of two things. One, you do it only on class. That's option one. But my worry about that is it kind of pushes away the race issue and doesn't feel like reparations for black people. So I would rather do it based upon descendants of slaves. If you are a descendant of slaves and you come with a percentage, right? We do it for Native Americans. I believe it's 1/8. I'm not sure what the number is, but they have a rule. If you're 1/8 from descendant from these people, you are officially Native American. We create the same thing for descendants of slaves. If you are 1/8 descendant from this group of people, whatever that is, then you are considered a descendant of slaves, or whatever the number is. We figure that number out. And then we use a generation as a time period. A generation as a time period. For the sake of argument, 23 years is generation. So for 23 years, that's a time period. One generation, or if you feel it could be two, depending on how you deal with this, 46 years. So either 23 years or 46 years. You take that as your time for reparations. During that time, if property is owned 51% or more by descendants of slaves, that property tax is halved, regardless of any other law whatsoever. It does not matter. The property tax is halved, period. Done, halved. 51% or more, halved. Same with every other tax in America. They pay half sales tax back to the states. They pay half property tax. They pay half everything tax. All the taxes are halved. And second piece, any transfer of wealth to anyone in your family, if you're a descendant of slaves, any transfer of wealth is free, regardless of if there are taxes or fees. It is free. That's it. And what does that do? Number one, first thing it does is encourages descendants of slaves to have a ownership mindset. Number one, it helps out the descendants of slaves to start thinking about ownership mindset. I should own things. I should buy things. I should transfer wealth. The mindset has changed, number one. Number two, if you are wealthy and you're a descendant of slaves, you are able to help your others around you a lot easier. You can just help them better. But there's another piece here that's great. It doesn't exclude people who aren't descendants of slaves. Imagine if you're deciding to yourself, hey, I'm this wealthy developer and I want to buy a building in Dallas. Well, wait a minute. If it's owned 51% by black people, descendants of slaves, did property taxes have? Where are my black friends? That's the first thing I was going to ask. Where are my black friends? I need at least two. Where are they? I got to give them 51%. They might say, well, Larry, that's like affirmative action. It isn't. Affirmative action is you hire X number of black people and you fit a percentage, whatever the case may be. Now, why that doesn't work? Severalfold. One, you wind up having the idea of, well, I'll hire a black woman, so that hits two, and it's just a job, so I'll give menial jobs. They have no ownership, right? So you look at many of the law firms in New York City. This is not as true now, but definitely true about 10 years ago. They say, oh, we have 10% of our population is minority. Well, I don't see any of them. Well, they're all in the mailroom. They all have menial jobs. I'm saying ownership. It would encourage integration without forcing it. You don't want to do it? Don't do it. But it would encourage integration, which is what I want also. But it will also encourage descendants of slaves to be involved at the top of everything. Now, for those descendants of slaves who've already got there, they're now supermen for a while, superwomen for a while, for 23 years. Oh, my God. And those who aren't will be able to move up. But it doesn't exclude everyone else. They can all join in as long as 51% is owned by descendants of slaves. Others can come in, absolutely. It would encourage it completely. And it's a set time. It changes mindset, changes culture, and its reparations. And now, 23 years, we're done. It's done. We did it. Now, some people get mad at me and go, Larry, you have to give them checks. It's not fair. I get that. I do. My worry is, as I always say, is it actually helpful? With my plan, I believe it is actually helpful to both the descendant of slaves community, the black community, and everyone else in America. I think it helps everybody. Because here's the best part of the entire plan of 23 years. As the taxes go down, over the case of 23 years, others will go, well, why am I paying the taxes? I don't want to pay these. I want to keep taxes low. So after 23 years and the rules are over, they'll want to half all the taxes. So everyone gets a tax cut in 23 years because all the taxes will go down because no one will want to go back to the other rate. So they'll all want to keep the prices down. So they will. So now when your taxes get cut in half 23 years from now, what's everyone going to say? Thanks, black people. You just cut my property tax in half. You guys are amazing. Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. That's why I want a plan like this, right? Because that's what actually happens at the end. I know it's a good thing. If I instead give a bunch of cash, which is what people ask for, my worry is I look at what happens to people who get cash now, right? Look at people who win a lottery. And this isn't a racial thing. This is a human thing. If you get money, you win a lottery, 50% of people who win the lottery are worse off 5 years later. About a third actually go bankrupt. That's not going to help the black community. That's not going to help descendants of slaves. That's going to make things worse over the course of 5 years. I'm not trying to make things worse. Better. So that's why I don't want to do that. Just humans just don't do well with that. Not just that, we make it over time, right? Well, Larry, don't give it in a lump sum. Give checks over time, whatever that is, right? Sounds good. Sounds great. You don't give a lump sum. You give checks over time, right? You get your check every month or every quarter, whatever the case may be. Great. I look at that too. Look at these structured settlements, which are people getting checks over time. What happens there? Predatory lenders come in, take the money, the actual payments, and then give out flat fees anyway, right? So you go to the place that says, oh, you're going to settlement for whatever X number of months or years? I'll take that and I'll give you a flat dollar fee, maybe 50 cents on a dollar, maybe less. You get a flat, you piss it away, same idea. It doesn't help. I'm trying to make things better. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. We do that, and now we've had something that gets done. This can work. I know it's hard, but I think it can make sense. I love your reasoning, Larry. Wish more people would listen to you. I agree. I wish more would. Absolutely. And again, if you don't like my idea, I'm open to another one. Absolutely. Yes. Totally open to it. So, yes. All right. See if I can grab a couple of these. Would you be willing to be a part of a neoconservative / libertarian alliance, or at least political understanding where libertarians control domestic policy and neoconservatives control foreign policy? Wherever I can be an ally to get what I think right done, I'm always open to be an ally. And I mean that, right? There's no way I'm gonna get everyone to agree on everything that I want. But if we could agree on domestic policy, let's agree on it. I'm okay with that. Whatever's going to work to get things better. That's what I'm talking about. Yes. So if you offer an alliance to someone of your own race and they rejected it, how would you react? That's how you should react to someone of a different race who rejects your alliance. Ooh, Paul. I like that. That's if you actually treat people equally regardless of race anyway. Paul, not bad. I like that, right? What would you do if they were your race? That's not bad. I like that. I like to act the same way. I like that. Yes. Good. All right. Let's see. Why is logic and empathy in such short order in America? Because we're angry, Cicero Cypher. Because we are angry. Because we feel disrespected. Because we feel unheard. Because we feel like there's always an enemy. That's the reason why. And when people are afraid, they make bad decisions. That's the reason. When people are afraid, they make bad decisions. Yes. I've been opposed to racism my whole life and remain so. Critical race theory / anti-racism is very different from opposition to racism. It's true. Absolutely. There are different ways of opposing racism. That's absolutely true. I think the anti-racism is not effective. That's my view, but maybe I'm wrong. Yes. It's not just the left. America as a whole, through the digital medium, are becoming more invested in social environments more than their wants and needs. Good point. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I like that. All right. Let's see if I can grab a couple of these. Instead of left or right, the scale should read left, libertarian, right. I would like it to be authoritarian and free. I mean, I think that's even better, if that makes any sense, right? I think that's even better. So if we could do it that way, that'd be great. So, all right. Isn't he the one I want to have? I must have missed. I'm sorry. Someone else. I apologize. I popped the wrong one by mistake. I appreciate that. Drew Carey and Penn Jillette are libertarians. That's true. They absolutely are. Absolutely. One example of the contradictions, all Republicans are Nazis, being said by someone who promotes the show, The Young Turks. Every time you're saying all of are we have problems, right? Because if all Republicans are Nazis, then we have half our country's Nazis. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? I mean, think about that. What are we going to do? Of course you'd feel like the world's ending if you actually believe that. Of course you feel like the world's ending. The world's ending. Half our country's Nazis. Of course. But if you're on the right, half our country's communists. Of course the world's ending. Yeah. The reality of it is the vast majority of Republicans are not Nazis. Are there some neo-Nazis in the Republican Party? Of course. Are there some communists in the Democratic Party? Yes, of course there are. They're tiny. They're loud. That's for sure. They are loud. So now you just paint them all the same? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. What boggles my mind is how libertarian core message of live and let live and everybody just get along is considered fringe and crazy. What's so funny about peace, love, and understanding? I use that all the time. Yes. Affirmative action worked very well for me, a woman, after Latinos, and least effective for Black. It's true. Yes, that's accurate. It is true. Yes, it's true. So I would rather base it upon ownership than numbers, right? Ownership to me is the critical aspect in anything like that. Ownership is critical. Absolutely. So does anyone have the link to the 45-minute how to run a libertarian video? My team should pop that up for you. I think it's, yeah. Well, I'll get it to you, Andrew, if I can. I'll get it to you. Absolutely. Yes. Wouldn't the taxes be raised for non-reparations people? Now, here's the glory of this idea, Joe. No. And what does that mean? You have to cut government. Yeah, you saw through that one. You did. You'd have to cut government, would you? Wouldn't you? You would. You'd have to start cutting the government. You wouldn't have a choice, right? Which would help everybody. So you begin building community all over again, cutting government. Of course you would. You begin that. And one would hope that if you spurred the economy this way by spurring new innovation, new connections, new business groups, that you would spur the economy on and raise more money through regular taxation without having to raise anything. You shouldn't have to if this plan goes well. But of course, the whole thing is a plan. You have to plan out everything out to make sure it works. It shouldn't happen. But there is a problem that it might, but I would hope it wouldn't. But it's a valid point. But that was my whole point. Again, you cut government, right? You cut everything. To be forward, though, the number of the black population in America is only about 13%. That's it. So maybe most of those people in that same group that I'm in group of, most of them are descendants of slaves. Some aren't. So some of them wouldn't get it. Maybe 12% would in theory. And then it's only those groups of people who are buying things, right? So most of them are at least in multiple households. So we're talking 6 million households, maybe, right? Probably more like 4 million households. Some people won't do any of this, maybe 3 million households. There are, 150 million households in America, something like that? We're talking 3 million households out of 150 million. So the percentage of cutting the government is actually minimal. If that makes any sense, right? You'd only lose that amount. But then again, hopefully, as it grows, as more people start grabbing a hold of that, more people would jump on board and you would now open up the pie, right? Which, of course, should spur new buying and new selling, because now I got to buy and sell my property. I have to buy and sell my this so that I can get that tax break, which means it should spur the economy. So, and it should come over time. We've got 23 years to make this thing work. So it shouldn't be that bad. Look, I'm happy if someone wants to be cool and run the numbers. I'm happy to do that. But I think that's a good idea. So I hope I answered your question at least. Yes. I'm angry because the government won't leave me alone. Yes, exactly. Yes. If half the country are Nazis and they have a commies, we're all screwed. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Joe, look at you teasing me. Larry, government won't cut their spending. It isn't that much. They might anyway. Absolutely. Yeah. They still might be there. It's a small cut up front. And if you're on the glory of this plan is if you're on the right, as a general rule, you want tax cuts and you're getting them. You want a spur in the economy and you're getting it. And if you're more towards the left, you're getting reparations. So it should get enough of both sides to be able to claim victory. That's also the goal. I want both sides to be able to claim victory. If they can claim victory, then they have a better chance of supporting it. So I hope that part was clear at least, even if you don't agree. So yes. All right, guys. I do want to say thank you so much for this evening. I appreciate all the time you guys spent. It was an MLK day. People were asking me to talk about race again. So I thought it was the right time to do so. So I did. Please do me a favor. I was very bad again. I did this too many times. I'm not this good at this. Support my sponsors, theadvocates.org, Human Respect Test. Head over there, take the Human Respect Test and share it. It's free. It makes my sponsors happy. It makes everybody happy. It's the Human Respect Test. Take that test. Put that thing out there. Share it. It's great. It's fun. People like it. Everybody likes it. If you want to purchase any CBD products, head over to grownselection.com. Put in Sharpe Way 20 for 20% off. I'm going to let you guys go. It is so awesome talking to you. Good seeing you all. I will talk to you all tomorrow.